Welcome to episode 11 of the CALS Report, your trusted source for leadership insights in college athletics. I'm Will Reese, co-founder of Next Level Sports and director of CALS since 2011. In our big interview, Ryan Bradley welcomes Texas Tech basketball coach Grant McCasland. From building culture to leading through chaos, Coach McCasland shares an important perspective from the coach's side on what it means to thrive in today's ever-changing landscape, as well as some powerful thoughts on building strong relationships between coach and administrators. Then, in the Leadership Playbook, Clay Scroggins sits down with Lisa Campos and Brian White, two experienced ADs who've led their programs through growth, transition, and rising expectations, all while staying grounded in what matters most. It's another episode packed with wisdom, humility, and forward-thinking leadership, the kind of conversation CALS is known for. Thanks for joining us for the CALS Report, where the conversation continues long after the event ends. Hey, this is Will, just jumping on real quick. Just wanted to let you know how grateful we are to all our listeners and our CALS community and everybody for tuning in. This is episode number 11, so we're almost to a year. We've developed a great following in and out of the CALS community. Thanks so much for all of you that have sent and reached out with kind words about the podcast. And we're excited that it's people have gotten so much out of it. Big thank you to Ryan Bradley. Every month has come with the big interview and has been a huge part of this podcast. And also we've got Clay Scroggins. We're happy to have him on again. He's become a semi-regular part as well with the Leadership Playbook. A couple of quick announcements. Obviously, we're in the middle of CALS season, so we have got about 50 spots left for 2025 CALS, October 5th through 7th in Columbus, Ohio. So we're filling up at a record clip here. So if you're an invited guest, you'll want to go ahead and register if you want to get your spot reserved before we have to shut it down here in the next few weeks. If you have any questions about it, adsymposium.us. Look us up. You can reach out to us there. Also, here in the next week or two, we'll be releasing our agenda. We've got an unbelievable group of speakers as usual, but we'll be excited to roll that out here in the next couple of weeks. We have an awesome podcast for you today in episode 11. We're excited to have our first coach, Texas Tech head men's basketball coach Grant McCasland. Grant and Ryan's segment is just amazing. It's just full of stories and tips and insights. Grant McCasland is one of the best people in college athletics, has come up from junior college all the way up to within a few baskets of getting to a Final Four this year. He's got that program at Texas Tech on a great trajectory. So you're going to love his insights. Also, our friends Brian White and Lisa Campos join Clay for the Leadership Playbook. We're excited to have them with us. But thanks again so much for listening. We appreciate it. You taking the time. And with that, we'll jump into the big interview with Ryan and Coach McCasland.
It's time now for the big interview here on the CALS Report podcast. I'm Ryan Bradley, and I'm very pleased to be joined this month by a special guest outside of athletic administration, our first coach on the podcast, the head men's basketball coach at Texas Tech University, Grant McCasland. Coach, first, thanks for joining us, and how are things in Lubbock this summer?
Well, great. I do enjoy being first. I'm not so sure this was the one I always dreamed of, but it's good to be with you, Ryan. The summer's been fast. It's wild to think. We started a couple of weeks of trying to get our guys to campus, and then got the opportunity to leave and go work with USA basketball at the U19 World Championships, which was remarkable. Able to win gold. Got to work with some outstanding players and coaches. So really a unique summer of travel, but glad to be back in Lubbock, Texas, with our squad.
Yeah, and any summer that includes a gold medal, I think, is a good summer. So congratulations on that. I want to dive deeper into all the great things that are happening with your program and Texas Tech a little bit later in our conversation. But first, catch us up just on your background and experiences. Tell us a little bit about where you're from, how you first broke into coaching, and maybe some of those major milestone opportunities along the way that led to you becoming the head coach at Texas Tech.
Wow, that's a lot. And you know, I guess I'll start with this. I'm a son of a Baptist minister. He wasn't a preacher. He worked in education. So when you give someone the floor, it's dangerous. So I'll try to make this brief, although I'm terrible at doing that. You know, really, honestly, I grew up at the church or the church gym as a youngster, and I loved the opportunity just honestly to compete. You know, you take these personality tests, and I took one that gave your strengths, and my first one was believe, and my second one was competition. And I think that kind of sums up like my heart and what makes me good. It makes you terrible as a husband, the competition part. Thankfully, my wife was an outstanding soccer player and just as competitive, so she rightfully wins more time than not. But man, as a young guy, I just loved being a part of a team. I really did. And I think that was kind of, as I looked through the whole journey, it was the driving force of, I think, why we do what we do today and why we have success. But I was playing football in the 7th grade, and I was terrible at passing, but I played quarterback. So apparently they thought I could remember the plays and at least get people in the right direction. And I'll tell you how bad I was. We had a guy named Mark Cogdell who was he ended up actually being a quarterback in high school and then went on to play. And we were buddies in college because he played football and baseball at the university I went to. But I was so bad that we ran a pass play. I'd pitch it to him so he could throw it. But I tore my ACL in the 7th grade. And honestly, it was a hugely pivotal moment because the doctor brought me in. First doctor was like, you're not playing any more sports until you can get this repaired. That may be not until you finish growing, which may be your junior year. So he kind of gave me a bleak picture of it. And I remember that was a life-changing moment. My dad and I were really close, and we memorized 1 Peter 5, 6 through 10. Humble yourself, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that he will lift you up in due time. And I ended up having surgery a couple of weeks later just to repair some cartilage, not to repair the ACL. And doctor was like, you're probably not going to be able to play sports like you did. I put one of those Don Joy knee braces on, went and tried out for the 7th grade team, got cut. And I was probably best at basketball, but I was one of the best in the city and got cut. And I was just shocked. I'd never been cut before. And that was honestly kind of a life-changing moment for me because everything that revolved around sports was the most important thing to me. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I don't have this anymore. What do I have? And I think that was probably what drives everything today that revolves around team, just knowing that it is a gift and this isn't something that I deserve. And I don't think I'm better than anybody else, but got the opportunity just a few weeks later. I ended up being the manager of the team, and the guy needed me in practice. So he put me in practice on that 7th grade team that I got cut from. And by the time we got to district play, I was a starting point guard on the A team and ended up playing basketball in high school and got the opportunity to walk on in college, and just gave me a good perspective that this all can be taken away really quickly. But how do you love people? How do you pour your whole heart into things? And everybody can tell you what you can't do. But if you know that's where you're supposed to be, remarkable things can happen. And thankfully, fast forward a few years, I got to play in college in the Big 12, and no business playing in the Big 12. But I got done playing, and I just remember it being a pivotal moment. Like, what am I going to do? And 2 things happened. One, I got offered the opportunity. We were going to start a laundry business in Waco with Chip Gaines, Mike Trozo, a bunch of my buddies. All were trying to figure out what we were going to do. We talked about that. I got offered a position to work at the local church, University Baptist. And then the last one was there was a girl in Lubbock, Texas that I went to high school with. We went to actually 2 proms in the same limo with different people in high school. And she was finishing up her college career playing soccer at Tech. and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. And I called Coach Dickey at the time and said, can I come work basketball camp? And I got to be honest, it wasn't to work basketball camp, but I heard they may have some positions available, and I wanted to coach. And I just wanted to be a part of a team. Fast forward that summer, I went and worked camp, and I went really so I could see this girl, Cece, who we ended up getting married. Knocked on her door right when I got into Lubbock, and Coach Dickey after camp offered me a position to be the director of basketball operations. And so people laugh. I mean, I'm at Texas Tech, and I'm looking across the way at our first office at the United Supermarkets Arena, where I made $9,000, and I was in debt more than I made, paying for grad school, and worked 24/7. And I'm so thankful for Coach Dickey for giving me that first opportunity to coach in college at Texas Tech. But I tell everybody I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my wife. And really is remarkable when you look back at everything, how just the blessing it is to serve and to love people in a genuine way, not with the expectation that you get something in return, but just that this is the place that the Lord's placed us to love people and care about people. And then the byproduct has been us believing and competing every day to the best of our ability, and we've been able to win. So Cece and I went on a journey. We got fired. It was a good introduction here, unfortunately, and they hired Bob Knight, and they did a phenomenal job, obviously, and went to a junior college in Colorado and was the director of a residence hall there. And I couldn't even tell them I was coaching. I went there, Stacey and I's first year in marriage, we were living in the residence halls. And so it's just wild, ended up being an assistant, coming back to Midland to live in West Texas as an assistant coach at Midland Junior College, and got the head coaching job. And my first year as a head coach, I pretty much figured out really quickly that I didn't know anything. I had all the ideas when I was sitting next to all the head coaches I'd worked with and as a player, but lost on a tip dunk at the buzzer in junior college in our first year as a head coach, and I was just happy to be at the national tournament. And then next thing you know, you look up and you realize that we could have won the whole thing. We lost, in a team that probably could end up winning, didn't win it all, but had the best team there. And I changed my perspective, and I said, I'll never, as long as we're around a program and we're involved with people's lives, we're going to compete to win the last game of the year. And it was pivotal because at 26, I got the opportunity to be the head coach and learn that at a young age. And then 2 years later, we won a national championship in junior college. And just the belief and the hard work and the competitiveness and the heart behind all the people. I'm just so thankful I got to learn as a young head coach, just really what it means to love people, but what it looks like to really put yourself in a position to have the highest expectations to win. And that fast forwarded into, a Division II for a couple of years in Elite Eight, and then got to work with Scott Drew at Baylor, which was a phenomenal experience, and then become a head coach. And then the wild circle is that we're back in Lubbock, Texas at Texas Tech, and still trying to compete for a national championship, but do it in a way that honors the Lord, and I think tries to love people first and really care about them as people before you care about them. And then this day and age where we got a lot of things pulling at us, just the fight being, how do we be around people that we love every day and that we try to give and not get? And in a world where everybody's trying to get something, and trust me, it's easier to be on the fight for yourself. How do you fight to love other people well? And that's kind of been the fast forward version of it. And I'm so thankful we've got 4 kids, and there's not a better place to raise them and live and have a basketball program in the state of Texas than Lubbock, Texas, with the Texas Tech Red Raiders. So honestly, if you told me I was the head coach at Texas Tech 25 years ago or 26 years ago when I stepped on this campus to go to grad school and be the director of basketball operations and make $9,000, I'd have just said there's zero chance.
Well, it's a remarkable story.
Look at it across the way. It really is a blessing and remarkable, and tells the story that it's bigger than you, and there's a lot of blessings that come with being where you're supposed to be.
Absolutely. We're going to talk a little bit more about some of those stops along the way, but I want to start with this past season. You had a remarkable season there in Lubbock, um, over 25 wins, of course, a historic run to the Elite Eight. Now that you've had some time to kind of decompress and look back, what are some of the takeaways and the biggest memories and biggest wins for you personally from that journey with this team the past season?
Well, we started the season with a team that had some returners that I really loved, that had gone through difficult times the year before and who had made the NCAA tournament, who finished third in the Big 12, but we came up short and didn't win a game and lost to an NC State team that went to the Final Four. But man, were they playing well at the time. And we were kind of limping into it. A couple of our guys had been hurt in the Big 12 tournament. And so I just think we turned the page and wanted to make an impact, not just on our league, but try to win some games and win the whole thing. And, that was kind of the push with our team, was that we could do it. And watching NC State, who played great in our game, go on to the Final Four, I just think our team did believe that we could do it. And fast forward to this season, I thought a pivotal game for us was the game at the University of Houston, where I've been thrown out before as a Division II head coach, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't go into that game with an edge, knowing that we needed to compete at the highest level, because what Coach Sampson's done there and how they've competed and set the standard in their couple of years in our league really is remarkable. And such a great coach, such a great mentor, so tough, and went into that game with a lot of fight, knowing that we could do it together. And our team was convinced we could do it. And, we had a pretty controversial play with JT Toppin in the first few minutes of the game, and he got thrown out, and I followed him quickly after. And there's those moments where you see it all unfolding and you don't really understand the ramifications, and you're trying to gain some composure in a pretty hostile environment. And I just remember going back to our team in the huddle after they'd thrown us out, and I went to rally our guys, just say, hey, we're still going to win this, stay in the fight. And we had a great game plan and really felt great about our staff's awesome. So, we were definitely better when I was out of there. But I went to convince them we could, and they were already together. Chance McMillan had already got our team together. He had already told them we're still winning this game. And that's without JT Toppin, who ended up being Big 12 Player of the Year. And so I went to convince them, and I didn't need to say anything. I got back to say something, and I did say something just because I was already standing there, but I didn't need to because of the belief in the team. So I think when you talk about our program and what we wanted this to be, our guys genuinely had the ownership and love for each other to figure out a way in difficult times. And it was the best road record we'd had in the Big 12 since we've been a part of it this year. And I think those things are the things, as a coach, when things are against you, how does your team respond? And if you ask me one thing about this season that really gave me a lot of hope and appreciation for this group, was just our ability in tough situations to find a way, and how we played so well on the road and had such a great road record. And I think, that showed itself in the Arkansas game in the Sweet 16 to go to the Elite Eight. And we put ourselves in position. We were down pretty much the whole game, got down big late and found a way to win that one. And then lost in a game that I made several mistakes in the Florida game to give ourselves and put ourselves in position to go to the Final Four. A lot of growth from that, but I really think that Houston game was something that gave our team a lot of hope, and we ended up winning that game in overtime with JT and I in the locker room celebrating together. It was a really wild experience, but I think an experience that showed how collectively you can do it, even when you're put in some pretty difficult situations, and our guys believed and executed it to a level that I don't know if I'll be a part of another one like that had as much adversity, and our team found a way to win.
I mentioned you're the first coach we've had on the podcast. Over the last year, we've had the opportunity to have conversations with a lot of ADs about all the things going on in college athletics, the house settlement, NIL, revenue sharing, transfer portal, all the shifting realities in college athletics. From your seat as a head coach, how would you describe the last 3 or 4 years and all that you've navigated? And what, if any, clarity do you have now about what this is going to look like moving forward versus what you've just been through over the course of the last 2 or 3 years?
Whew. That's a loaded one. I think if there's any clarity I've gotten, there is none. That's why who you work with is so important. And I mean, you can have a lot of great plans. I remember Tony Bennett at Virginia, who's been a great friend, a guy I called during the season. Obviously, I've got a lot of great coaching friends in this profession, and Coach Drew, but Tony recruited when I was at Midland College, he recruited one of our players. And I remember him telling me, when you take over programs, you want to have guys that you can lose with. And I'm like, I always thought it was stupid. I'm like, what does that mean? Like, no one wants to lose. So why would you want to be with somebody when you're losing? Like, how does that look? But I know what he means. Like, how can you go through difficult things with people and still know that your passion and drive for how you do it is pointed toward a greater purpose that maybe doesn't have the same perspective as someone that's just trying to win at all cost. And that part to me is about life. And so if there's anything I've learned in this changing dynamic of athletics, and I'm thankful that I was a junior college coach, that by myself I did everything. Literally, like, I planned the schedule, I drove the bus, I took the McDonald's orders when we were standing at 2 a.m. after we lost to Clarendon, and I had to drive 4.5 hours, and they were unorganized. So I got behind the counter and wrote our guys' names on the bags, and then I paid for it. And then I looked at the stats on their way home, which there's no way I should have been doing that. I'm thankful for the responsibility of so many different changing elements. And every season in junior college, you had to start over with a new team. And then I got the Division II job where you had to do the same thing with limited resources. And so I will tell you, I'm so thankful to be at Texas Tech, where resources aren't an issue. Like, we do have the greatest resources. And so then what you do is you appreciate and love the opportunity you're in. And I think in this changing dynamic, there's a lot of things that we can complain about. There's a lot of things we can say, like, well, this is messed up, and why don't we do this? And you can have suggestions on all the things that are wrong with what we're doing in college athletics. But at some point, someone's going to have to figure out how to make something work with the current opportunities that we do have. And I will say this, like, I think we have amazing opportunities, but I also understand how trying it is for someone who hasn't been a part of so much change to see all these changes as such a mountain and something that doesn't seem like there's an end to the climb in a short time. And it does feel that way. I will say I'm thankful that we're at a place that I do feel like is trying to figure out a way to make it work. And I think in this day and time, if you're around people that you can lose with and you can figure out a way to keep moving forward and not find reasons why it's not going to work, but look for opportunity in this, I do think that those are there. And I will tell you, there's some discouragement on a daily basis with the lack of framework, I'll put it that way, with what we're doing. Because I will say this, more times than not, I'm like, this doesn't make sense. But also at the same time, if someone can tell me what the direction is that we need to try to go, then I'm willing to put everything I have into what we know to be true. And I think NIL initially caught a lot of people off guard in their willingness. And I looked at it quite the opposite. And I told some really close friends of mine this. I just said, this is an opportunity for us to give something to our guys and help them be great stewards with it. And they get opportunity with these resources, with the funding, with NIL, with these opportunities with a collective. And then let's help them understand that this is a blessing that we've been given? And then how do we steward that to help other people with it? Not how do we get something for people for ourselves? And not to say it's not good to get something, but man, just like, how cool is this? Because in junior college, I was trying to work a basketball camp to pay our guys $25, $50 so that we could, put together some lunches and eat them in the summer. Just you go from not being able to do anything for these players and their families. And there's some awesome stories. We had a player last year who was from another country who we went over there and visited him after our first season. And his high school coach had told us, man, I've been in this player's house. How cool is it that his parents have furniture? I'm like, what are you talking about? And he said, I've been over their house several times. They did not have furniture in their house. And so because of NIL, he was able to provide for his family so that they could have furniture in their house. I was like, how cool is this? That these opportunities give these guys different. Now, can they use them for other things? Sure. I mean, do they get chains? I mean, those are real things that are happening too. But man, I just choose to be so excited about the opportunities that our guys get because of this. And then let's just keep investing in them so that they see that this isn't the end. This isn't the greatest thing that they'll get. This is a part of life that gives you things so that you can help other people, and let that be our hope. And that ties itself back into our team and how we win and how we love people and how we care about people in genuine ways so that we can help each other go through difficult things together so that we can be better husbands, be better fathers, be better friends, be better sons and daughters. And so those are things that are really important in this day and age that I think supersede the problems that we have in athletics. And there's a ton of challenges to it. I told somebody the other day, they were asking me, like, what do you think you've gotten good at over time as a head coach? And I said, in this day and time, I just try to tell the truth as honestly as I can, as often as I can. And I used to sit back, and if I thought there was something that was off, I would wait to see it become off, and then now I'm a little more proactive and like, I don't feel like this is going to be a good direction for us. And how do we quickly find a way to make it better? And just honestly loving people in a genuine way that doesn't tell them what they always want to hear. And that may not be all that much fun in the short term, but I found it to be extremely fruitful in the long term. And so if somebody wants something that we can't give them, I tell them directly. But if we give them something I feel like we can help them with, then I tell them this won't be the answer to all our problems. This will create more, as a matter of fact. And with that, we have a responsibility to figure out how to love people well with this. And that be the guiding way that we navigate this new world of changes that we live in. And that's probably a long answer that wanders a little bit, but that's kind of my heart with all of this. Don't get discouraged with the change, and try to find ways to love people with the resources that we've been blessed with, to find opportunity to create ways to give and help other people as a result.
It's a great perspective. Knowing that there are no simple solutions in the environment we're living in, I do want to ask you, if you were the king of men's college basketball for a day, where would you start in terms of what you would look to fix or address in order to try to move this thing forward?
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't look at your questions before we started this. We were talking before. I haven't thought through that specifically enough to probably give you an answer that would help us all. I do honestly feel like we've got to find a way to create a playing field where the people that have common resources can compete together. And I don't know if that's a tier system, very similar to what we've seen in the European soccer leagues with relegation and the ability to move different leagues. You're not stuck in a league. And I know that because I was at North Texas, and I was like, it's going to be hard to win a national championship in football, but I always felt like we could win one in basketball. I mean, just that jump of the opportunity to make a playoff was basically impossible for football. But in basketball, if you made that tournament of 68 teams, you could win the whole thing. And so I've always looked at that as a way of like, how can you, if you build your program in such a way, can you jump into that next group? Even though nobody would schedule us when we were at North Texas, when we got in the tournament, they didn't have a choice. And so we were blessed to win a game one year in the NCAA tournament and then lost in the second round. But I think with the end in mind, how do we put together, and football feels like it's moving in that direction. Basketball feels like it's such a wide range of teams with dramatic, levels of funding. And, it feels like if we can come up with a way that connects these universities with common opportunities to put together tournaments that you play in at the end of seasons and tournaments in football and each of these level sports, to give us an area where there's not too much of a gap. And then those teams that are in maybe a lower tournament have the opportunity to move up into an upper tournament. So that way you're not saying that we should have a team that has unlimited resources with a team that doesn't have many, and you're trying to put those teams in the same grouping to compete. And I just feel like we're starting and with a difficult system to have rules that apply to everybody when they don't. And that feels like the place that needs to start, and then give teams an opportunity if you want to move up into that. And then the teams in the lower can get moved down, then you do have an opportunity to move. It's not set in stone, but there is a process to help build what you're doing and get more competitive balance, I guess, and force. And then you can say these schools with all these resources, these are your standards, and this is how we're going to operate with this group. And the people that don't, because I was at North Texas and we were fighting for our lives, but then I was in Division II at Midwestern State, and at Midland Junior College, you've always got these, and it feels like in college athletics with 300 plus Division I teams. In basketball, we really are spread thin in regards to what we're trying to apply these rules to meet. And then I don't know how we're supposed to say, and this is probably touching on something, I don't know how we're supposed to say what somebody's worth on the market when we're talking about NIL and saying like, this deal you can do and this deal you can't do. It just feels like that's such a great place for us to maybe put some guardrails to start this, but it doesn't feel like that's sustainable over time. And so if we're in a free market where people are able to make a profit off their name, image, and likeness, and then I know we're in a new system where we're trying to say these deals are approved and these aren't, it feels like that's a difficult group. So those are two areas, and you asked for one, so I'm like a basketball coach, I'll give you a couple and not pin myself in here. But it feels like the system initially, we need to find some better competitive balances with common resources. And the new Cinderella teams will be the lower level teams, and then how do we create more free market for our guys to get funding, and these rules of trying to determine who can get it and why feels hard to keep up.
Yeah, makes sense. You mentioned how grateful you are to be at a place that has resources like Texas Tech, particularly, I'm sure, in this era of college athletics. Texas Tech's got it going on right now, not just in men's basketball, a lot of success and buzz out there about what's happening with the football program, the run by the softball team earlier this spring. Talk about the importance of institutional alignment, not just between you and your AD, but the president, other coaches, donors, constituents outside the program, and the role that plays in really elevating an entire athletic department.
Man, I'll tell you, I've been a part of some great administrations. I really have. I'm so thankful because it feels like every place I've been, there's been a willingness to put our resources, everything we have into it to make it better. But I haven't been a part of an alignment like this ever. From the chancellor to the board, our board right now our board of regents is unbelievable. Cody Campbell, Dusty Womble, President Skuvanek, actually our chancellor, he's remarkable. Kirby Hokut has been here and walked this place through so many challenging times. Our football coach, Joey McGuire, he literally texted me 2 days ago, and he knew we were in a situation where we're trying to help get someone eligible through the NCAA, and he's just offering to help anyway. And so we're on the phone with one of the football directors of operations who's helping. We're working together. I've never been a place where this many people are connected to help each other. I really haven't. And it's at every turn. It is really, and the expectations are the same, but it's also done in a way that we want to do it the right way. That was the one part I loved about this. When I interviewed here and I was trying to convince them that this is the right fit and we were trying to work through this, the one thing that I kept getting is like, we want to do this the right way. And that to me is everything. And that's not easy to say when you do have resources. So how do you do that? And I mean, it was clear to me that within the guidelines of what we've been given, we will maximize our opportunity with our time and resources, but we also want to make sure that our approach is right. And that's what I think makes this sustainable. And I can't tell you how vital it is that in the communication of this, there's a clear plan with what we're doing, but you also have a lot of people sacrificing things to make this great and to put the resources into it. And a lot of people say they want to do it, but until you actually go put the resources in it, what are we doing? We're just saying we want this to be great. And that's where I'll tell you has separated this. But even in those times where maybe financially we've made some investment in this, I do think we're making the investments in the right things. I do not think we're doing this thing uncalculated, which is why we're winning. I mean, people ask us like, okay, it's one thing, and I think there's been plenty of examples across the country of teams that have invested in their programs, but they haven't won at a level. And so to me, the reason why is because there is a genuine interest in doing it the right way and making sure that it fits within the mission of the university. And I will tell you, this is a passionate fan base. I think we've got some natural challenges with our location. I mean, I don't hide it. We live in Lubbock, Texas. It's not the easiest place to get to in the world, but it's the best place when you get here. Why? Because the people love it here. And there's a genuine love and attention that we can all focus on with Lubbock being a little bit difficult to get to. I mean, we have a basketball arena that has the best attendance in the state of Texas. And if you come to one of our football games or you come to one of our softball games, you'll see that people love the Red Raiders. I mean, we'll go play on the road and we'll have more teams than the home team. I mean, we're going to get to play in a couple of venues this year. And the reason why we're playing them is we've obviously had success at a team, but it's because of the support of our fans. I mean, they're like, this is one of the hardest places to play college basketball is the United Supermarkets Arena. It's unbelievable. And so for us, I just think there's rare times in life that not only do you have the resources, but you have the administrators who are willing to all put it together in a direction that feels like it doesn't just lift the university, it lifts the community of Lubbock, and it lifts the opportunity that we can see that we want to seize. But how many times do you actually get the opportunity to actually do it? And this is rare, I think, in college athletics to be able to align in this way. And I can't tell you, if there's one thing I can tell you I'm grateful for, it's the people of Texas Tech. It's the administrators, it's the coaches, and it's the community. It's just it's the perfect time to be at the perfect place for college athletics. And it may not fit everybody, but man, I sure do love the sunsets, and I sure do love the USA on game day because I get to do both of them. And I can do it in the same day, and it's I can't think it's ever been better or will be better. It's hard for me to imagine it better because of how great everyone is right now in regards to our passion for putting Texas Tech in the best possible position to win national championships and be one of the premier universities in college and in college athletics.
As you have evolved as a head coach, you mentioned you becoming a junior college coach pretty early in your career and having that responsibility on you, all the responsibilities, it sounds like, and thinking about your maturation through those different steps in your journey. How have you evolved as a coach? What are some of the things that have remained true at each level? And what are maybe some of the areas where you've had to grow or evolve in order to be an effective leader of a major program like the one you're in charge of today?
I think probably the two biggest things I've learned is, one, just admitting that you mess up and that you need some help. Man, I can think of several times where I've put myself in a bad position because of a decision that I've made on a basketball court, or we used to have some really competitive, challenging practices. I'll give you two stories that jump out to me, and probably a third. But one, I was a junior college coach in 06-07, and we had one of the best teams in the country. And we made it to the national tournament, but I'd made so many mistakes that year. And we had a guard, and the end of the game, we're up 15 and they cut it to 1, and I get a technical foul, and our point guard, combo guard, comes over and puts his arm around me and says, like, "Coach, I got you." And I just remember going to the team at the time and being like, I thought I messed this thing up. I thought I lost us the national championship. And all those guys looked at me and were like, "No, Coach, we got you. Like, we're winning this game." And I was apologetic to our team. And I just remember sitting there like, I messed this whole thing up. And all those guys just rallied, and we ended up winning, by 19 points. And we went on a crazy run to finish that game. And it's weird because as men, we want to be right, and as coaches, we're supposed to be right, and we're supposed to be confident and tell people how good we are at what we do and build confidence. But I think the best way I've built confidence is telling people that I've messed up and that I'm sorry, and will they forgive me? And that's a unique thing as a head coach to do. But I remember our first year at North Texas, we had the best ATO. It was our second year, at North Texas. We had the best ATO numbers. So after timeouts, we had literally the best point per possession through like 22 games. And so that's indicative of a coach. You're doing so good, and you're drawing up whatever play that's working, and you've prepared your team, so you're doing good. And I remember that game at home against UAB, and I come out of the timeout, and one of the plays worked that we were running, and the words came out of my mouth, not for anybody to really hear, but I just remember saying, like, "Dang, I'm good at this," and the true story, we lost 7 of our last 8 games. And it just was like a clear picture to me. And the next year we came back and we ended up going to the NCAA tournament, winning the league, won the most league games in school's history. And I just remember at that time walking away from that, just how fragile winning is and how we think we're in the center of it and how good we are at this is the moment that there is some truth to this. And it's a biblical principle that I live by, but like you really do think that you're good because of who you are and what you've done. And really we need people. We need the help of other people. And that always is seared into my brain, and how people will tell you how great you are and people tell you how terrible you are in the same game, and how you go from beating Arkansas and feeling great last year to losing to Florida in a very similar game. And one moment you think you're really good at this, and the next moment you're being laughed at. And I was really hard on one of our players that next season. And I remember we were playing in a tournament in Orlando, and I was on TV, and couple of people had said, like, Coach, you're really hard on this particular player. And I was like, okay. And I kind of passed it off. And then my dad sent me a message, and my dad's had a stroke. He doesn't communicate well, but he wrote it all in a text. And it was one of those texts where you have to scroll to keep reading, and I got to the bottom of it finally. And basically all of it was like, I love you, son. You're an amazing coach. You've got a great purpose, but you really need to rethink this and how you're coaching your team. And I called that player in and told him that I was sorry and I needed to do a better job of loving him, but holding him accountable in a way that lifted him up. And he was like, Coach, I was going to come talk to you today because I wanted to tell you that I felt like that I'm trying to do everything you're asking and you're not believing in me. And I just cried with him. He cried with me and told me how much he loved me. And that team ended up once again winning the league by the largest margin in the history of the school. And we ended up going to the NIT and having a great run in the postseason. And that relationship is one that I'm so thankful for. But, there's a humility in coaching that I think we all want to project, that we're strong and we're tough and we're competitive and we'll fight you. But I honestly think the winning is in being honest with people and telling them that you need help, asking for forgiveness when you mess up, and being willing to let people tell you when you're not doing things the right way, and having the humility to be okay with changing and knowing that you need help. And so I would tell you honestly, over the years, the teams that have had the most success are the teams that I've apologized the most to. And I think people learn to understand and appreciate that you model something that I think is impactful in their own life. And it's not just with that. It's with being a husband. It's with being a father. And all those moments when I've actually asked for forgiveness and told people that I've messed up is when I think we've grown the most. And that's how I hope our teams are. And I hope that our team models that. And I hope our team can do that. Like, hey, I messed up in this moment in the game, but we're able to move forward because we appreciate everybody and know that they're not going to try to take advantage of someone just because they can. And that's easy to do in this world of college athletics. And I think it's more difficult to really know when you messed up, how you communicate that to other people.
I heard it said that humility in a leader is a superpower, and I think you just articulated what that looks like in a really powerful way. So thank you for your candor on that front. We got time for maybe one or two more questions. You've worked for some really well-respected ADs and friends of the CALS community. Of course, your current boss, Kirby Hokut, Ren Baker, Jared Mosley, Terry Mahajer. What do you think makes for a healthy and productive coach-AD relationship, and what have you drawn from those experiences with those gentlemen I just mentioned?
Yeah, Terry gave me the first opportunity, and I'll never forget just his passion for every day and how do we maximize the program. I mean, all those guys, and Jared Mosley, he's probably the one that's helped me the most because he's shown the most grace to me. And he's the one that took a job with Jared for 4 months and at Abilene Christian. And we got to work together for a long time at North Texas. We were in the trenches together. And Ren Baker, I mean, all those guys, they're so remarkable in their own way of how uniquely gifted they are and how they operate in their strengths. And I'll tell you what all of them have done just really, really well is they've brought people with them that complement who they are and that they don't have to shoulder the whole load because this is difficult. I mean, you got to have people that you really trust, and all those guys, Coach Zavosic, Coach Z, who was at Arkansas State with us and worked with Terry, and obviously Ren and Jared worked together. And then here, Jonathan Boutros has been great to work with. I mean, just how do you surround people that can do things better than what you do and you can allow them to operate in their strengths? And I think everybody likes to be the boss until you've got to answer to everything and there's just not enough ways to do it. And you need people with you that know your strengths and can build you up and allow you to do what you do well. And that's what all these guys have honestly been great at. And the other thing that I think is really important is how do you see what can move your program forward and be proactive? And I know that sounds easy, but I think that's what separated all those guys to me, is they would contact me with things that we needed to get better at. And I was thinking, yeah, we could do that, but just their ability to communicate that and see it gave me a lot of confidence in the direction we were going, because they were thinking not just how do we help what I would want, but how do we see what really could make this better? And they've seen things in what we need to do that I didn't see, that I am thankful that they were thinking that way. And I'll give you an example of Ren Baker. We were playing with a chance to win in conference play, and he came to me before the season and said, hey, we need a charter flight, 2 flights during the season. We weren't chartering. We were flying commercial. We were hopping on buses in Conference USA. And he said, let's charter flight 2 flights this next year. You pick the most difficult road trip and let's charter them so that you can. And I wasn't even thinking that way. I was just thinking, like, how do we get more money for recruiting? And, like, he was like, look, we need to move this direction because I think this is going to be big in our league. And sure enough, we played at FAU on a Thursday night and played at UAB on a Saturday. And the Thursday night game was late and the Saturday game was early. And instead of waiting at the airport, driving to the airport on a Friday morning, and then getting there Friday night, we flew on a charter Thursday night after the game was over, landed at like midnight, got to sleep a whole night, woke up the next day, and come to find out that flight we were supposed to be on got delayed. It wouldn't have got in until 9 o'clock, and then we were supposed to play at 11. Well, we got to sleep in, go to the gym, do a shoot around, concentrate on practice all day long at the hotel and what we wanted to do, put the game plan in, walk through it 2 times at the hotel. And then that was when we won our first conference championship, and we won both those games on the road to finish the season. I never even thought that way, that this is what we needed to do as a program to put ourselves in that position. And just the support in that way, I got here, and, Kirby is phenomenal because he just has such great relationships with people that we've been able to sustain not just success, but like a continuity in a place where I think a lot of people want to touch you at Texas Tech and tell you what you need to do. Like, Kirby's so helpful in telling me, like, these are the things that I want you to focus on, because in this job you can run every direction, but this direction, he's like, this is where we need to focus, and this is what we can do to make this program better. And he really helped guide me in a time where I hadn't been a high major head coach. I've been with Coach Drew and seen how it works behind the scenes, but it's one thing to know what Coach Drew's doing all those days. It's another thing to go out there and do it. And there's so many people that need your attention here, from administrators to boosters to media, that you really can get going 500 different directions. And Kirby really helped guide me in a way that I think helped me think through the most important things that we need to do. And at every turn, he's been supportive. I mean, we got beat at home this year to Central Florida, and it looked like it was for us at home, and feeling like we had a chance to really be great. And I just remember him meeting me in the locker room and says, we're going to be really, really good. And I was like, man, what kind of support that you need of someone encouraging you in the most difficult moments. And we did end up finish second in the Big 12, thought we had a chance to win it. But from that first home loss to being able to, to put ourselves in a position to compete for a championship, I think you just need unwavering support, but also a thought process that helps people think of things that they don't know they need to make their program better. And that just gives you a lot of hope as a coach that you're not having to fight for everything you need. Someone's trying to be proactively giving you opportunities to improve.
It's really good. All right, last question and we'll get you out of here. CALS is built around the idea of helping people pursue personal and professional growth. For you, what have been some of the most important habits or personal disciplines that you believe have contributed to your continued growth and development and being able to sustain the leadership opportunities that you've been given as a head coach?
Man, great question. I am extremely thankful, because I do think as a basketball coach, and I've heard so many different people tell us that you got to have somebody in your life that can speak openly and freely about those pitfalls that you may be heading toward that you don't see. I've got a guy here by the name of Kevin Fox that our stories randomly aligned back in Midland, and he was the pastor of a small church, Westway Church of Christ, and he was young. He was younger than I was. I was 26 when I got the job, and he was younger than that, pastoring a church, and we ended up running a marathon together, and neither one of us liked running. And he's a way better runner than I am. But like our relationship genuinely over the years, he's a guy that I can call and can call me. And I do think if you're asking me what a discipline, I think it's connecting with someone in a real way that you know has your best interest and loves you if you win every game or if you lose all of them, but also that you'll allow to speak into your life and can see what you're going through, and that you can share things that you wouldn't share with other people, and that they love you and care for you in a way that's genuine, and that they can give you some direction. And I'll tell you, there's nothing like the word for me. The gospel, the Bible is clear. Just that the more you can fill yourself up with that, the more then you can empty your tank and loving other people. And that's the way the Lord fills us up, is I think with great mentors, and for me, men in my life that can help me see the things that are coming and love and hold me accountable in a way that don't have anything to do with basketball. And then probably the other one that I struggle with, honestly, is just how do you consistently find time during the season to exercise physically? And I know that sounds simple, but man, if I exercise right, then I eat better. And when I don't, I eat like crap. And so if there's two things that I find in my life that help give me better direction, it's, man, am I trusting the Lord with those things daily in my life, that I'm not having to look for other things to fill it, and I'm filling myself with who He is, and the relationship with Jesus being the priority and my hope, and allowing a guy like Kevin Fox to tell me the truth about those things that are happening in my life. And he can call me and he can be like, look, man, this looks like it's headed in the wrong direction, and encourage me in a way that moves forward. And then how do I find a routine? And for me, if I don't do it first thing in the morning, then I'm in deep trouble. So I try to break a sweat every day, and I try to do it early. I don't always accomplish it, but when I do, it sets the table for the rest of those things that eating right and getting better sleep. It feels like it puts me in a better position to take care of my body. So those are two things that I know will help make those other people around me better, and allow me to be a better version of myself, to help them and love them better every day, which is my heart to do here at Texas Tech with the Red Raiders.
A lot of wisdom there, Coach, and I'm sure we could all apply more of those in our own lives. I want to thank you for making time for us. I know your plate is very full. You got a lot ahead of you, a lot of momentum there at Texas Tech. So again, congrats on all the success. Best wishes for the successful 25-26 season. And again, thanks for making time to invest in the CALS community today on our podcast.
Oh, my treat, man. I love it. Anything for Will Reese and you all. It's awesome what you've done to help a lot of people. And I genuinely am thankful and excited for this opportunity. Thanks.
All right. Appreciate you, Coach.
See y'all.
Welcome to the Leadership Playbook. My name's Clay Scroggins. I have the privilege today of having a conversation with two one man, one woman who have done this for a long time. They're experts in their field. I think you're going to enjoy this conversation. Lisa Campos at University of Texas San Antonio, Brian White at FAU, Florida Atlantic University. Brian, just before you jumped on, I was asking Lisa, I think you both have a Vice President of Intercollegiate Athletics title. Did I say that correctly?
You did. Vice President and Director of Athletics. Lisa, just the same.
Combo. Well, I wanted to start by just saying thank you, but also I've briefly met the two of you, have been around you just a little bit through CALS, and the thing that I wanted to start with is how remarkable it is. It's rare to see ADs that have tenure like you both have. You're in a world where people every couple of years, they're on the move. And Lisa, you've been at UTSA since 2017, I believe. Brian, in your role since 2018. Why don't you tell us some of the benefits of staying in the same place? Lisa, you want to start?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. Pleasure to be on with Brian, a great colleague. But yeah, so I arrived to UTSA, technically got hired in November of 2017 or December, actually got onto campus in January of 2018, and really fortunate that I've actually also worked for the same president. And so the tenure of presidents, as you know, is also shrinking. And so for both of us to have been together for this many years is really exciting. And to your point, I mean, you think about that is you're building relationships, you're building the momentum, you're sustaining the momentum, and to have consistency and the same leadership is so important as you're going through, and particularly what we went through over the last few years from the changing landscape of intercollegiate athletics to COVID. I mean, there's been a lot that's happened over the last few years. So having the consistency in the present position, this position, some other of our vice presidents on campus, I believe is really the key to all the momentum and all the great things that have happened here at UTSA.
Absolutely. I'd say the same. And thank you so much. Looking forward to this conversation. And, I started in this league. Actually, I started in our previous league with Lisa. We were both in Conference USA when I got started, March of 2018. And, I think, benefits of being at a place for a long time for me is growth. I feel like when I first started here, I was a first time AD. So that I'm not only learning how to be an AD, but I'm learning the community of Boca Raton. A lot of our donors and supporters are not necessarily graduates because we're a very young school. So the community here, learning that has been huge. But also learning the university, the athletic department, the coaches. I think over time, it allows us to build trust and confidence among our leadership. And not only our presidential leadership, but our other vice presidents, our campus counterparts, just building trust of being a consistent person over time, I think really helps us be better leaders, serve our departments better, serve our student athletes better. So I think that's probably a key focus for me. I have had, unlike Lisa, I've had 3 different presidents and 4 different board chairs. But I've been extremely fortunate to have come into a place where my predecessor, I think, did a great job, Pat Chun. And there was just great momentum in athletics, and we've been able to continue that regardless of who's in those roles. All have been extremely supportive of athletics, and not only supportive, but they believe in what we're doing and the value we provide for the university. So I think that's been extremely important to what's kept me here. We've not only have my family and I have loved Boca Raton and FAU, but the place really believes in the growth potential of athletics and what it can do for the university.
Well, I think it says a lot about the two of you and your character. I like what you said, Brian, that when you stay somewhere a little while, you're almost forced to grow in a way, changing jobs, switching to somewhere else. That it's not necessarily always true, but sometimes it allows us to smuggle our lack of growth or our areas that need to grow into that new role. But when you stay somewhere, those things get uncovered, and you got to look yourself in the mirror and go, all right, I'm going to either grow or this isn't going to work out. And it's clearly working out really well for both of you. I want to talk about that transition that you mentioned, going from Conference USA to the American Conference. Plenty of schools, plenty of ADs have led schools through transitions like that. But the two of you, I think one of the unique things about both of your situations is your school was, you would have maybe been categorized as on the rise for a while, but now you're both established national names. With that comes expectations. How has your own leadership changed because of that transition, because of the new expectations that you both have, being in a new conference, being more on a national stage?
I don't know if my own personal leadership style or philosophies have changed because of that, but I do think a continued focus, a continued growth mindset is extremely important. I do think what was good in 2018 or 2019, our wins that we were very proud of then, the bar is raised, and now we need to figure out how do we raise the bar again, whether that's revenue generation, fundraising, ticket sales, but also competitive excellence. What are we doing for our student athletes? What are we doing for the student athlete experience? it's never okay. We arrived in the American, we're good, and that's Lisa, I'm sure, is experiencing the same thing with, and that's you want to be at a place that has that sort of ambitions. Our leadership, not only our biggest donors that are part of the fabric of our place, and our board and everybody here in this community, they see the potential that the university has. The university's really improved academically in my time here, and that's something that I think we're proud to play a small part in, and we believe that that's also something we should be proud of as we're helping to contribute to the trajectory of the whole university. So I think across the board, it's probably a time as we move into new conferences to just reassess everything you can do. And we were both very successful in Conference USA, obviously, and I think that the Conference USA schools, what UTSA has done has been incredible, and we're proud of what we've been able to contribute to the American. Have really served the American well, and we've been able to be competitive right away. And that as the bar raises, we need to raise with it.
Yeah, I agree with what Brian's saying. When I took this job, I knew it was going to be a builder growth mentality, that we had something and still have something so special here, and how we continue to elevate that. And when I first got here, it was always about how do we position ourselves. It's never a matter of if, it's a matter of when. There's realignment, there's change. We've gone through tremendous change in the landscape of collegiate athletics, and my role, my leadership has always been about how do we continue to position ourselves to be ready for whatever comes our way. And we do a lot of scenario planning. We're trying to guess what the future might look like and having different plans for those different scenarios. And so when we hire staff, when we're looking at coaches, we're really transparent that, as an institution, as an athletics program, we're so young. We're only 56, 57 years old. We have a young alumni base. Like, this is a building program. Like, we are not steep in tradition. We get the opportunity to create our own tradition. And what better atmosphere, culture to be in, that in 20 years, 30 years, we get to look back and say we had a part of that. We put our footprint on that program. And so we're always looking for people who have that mindset, that growth mindset, that builder mentality of this, we're going to roll up our sleeves, we're going to work really hard, and we're going to always just be positioning ourselves for whatever comes next.
I love that you both corrected me so kindly to go, if anyone thinks we're there yet, we are certainly not there yet. I think what you both just talked about, I think that not only matters in the job you're in, but I think that is a great way of life, right? To never just assume I've arrived, but to constantly keep that, no, I'm on a journey, I'm growing, I'm moving somewhere. I want to take a quick left-hand turn for people that are listening that are maybe in junior roles. Maybe think back to when you were in your 20s. We've got a lot of associate ADs, maybe in some admin, more administrative
Can we actually
roles.
go back?
You want to go back?
That
You
sounds
want to go
awesome.
back? Those are good years. Those were good years.
Great times.
When I was reading both your bios, I was really struck by the pedigree of your education. That you, Brian, you went to Notre Dame, and you got your MBA. Lisa, while you were at UTEP, you got your doctorate while you were there. Talk to a younger leader about why you made that decision. Why did you get more education? You probably, the job you're in now, you don't have to have it, but I'm sure it served you well. Tell us, take us behind the curtain. Why did you do it?
Sure. So many people have heard my story that I'm a first generation college student. I was raised by parents who had no formal education. But they always instilled the importance of education. They did, my mom was a janitor at a nursing home. My dad was this technician at a VA hospital, and they wanted a better life. And so that is all I heard, was how education will result in a better life and change the trajectory of your life. And honestly, Clay, that's why I got into higher education. Was when my undergraduate years at Colorado State University were unbelievable. The way they served and supported first generation students. They were so ahead of their time when I went to school there. And it really encouraged me. I didn't even realize you can have a career in higher education. And I did my master's degree in student affairs in higher education and learned so much about how I could give back And so that was always my trajectory. I always thought I'd be a vice president for student affairs. I never knew about this life of college athletics. I went to UTEP. Out of grad school, I was an assistant dean of students. I was doing campus discipline, doing student activities, and just really working on that side of campus life and loving it and serving students who were like me as an undergrad. And so that is just really fulfilling and why I've stayed in higher ed. But I did have that itch. I was out of grad school for a couple of years, and I might have did my doctorate more for my dad than for me, because he just really instilled why education was so important. So that is my North Star of just, it truly does change the trajectory of someone's life. And I'm, a living example of that. And I joke that my son has no idea. He doesn't have a lot of adversity in his life. He didn't grow up the same way I did. And we got to figure out how to manufacture some of that for him. But just getting a college degree, what an impact that made. So I'm a nerd. I love reading. I love studying. So that was part of it as well.
Cool. Brian, what about you?
So, as an undergrad student at Notre Dame, I was a sociology major because I enjoyed it. Like Lisa, I love to read. I love to learn, very intellectually curious, and enjoyed my academic experience there. But upon graduation, when I decided at some point I was going to go to law school and go a totally different route, but I've just became increasingly drawn to college athletics. I grew up around it, and I kind of got to a point where I knew I wanted to work in college athletics. I felt like the world of an athletic director had become so much more of a business than it had been in the past. So the idea of getting an MBA when I had never taken a single undergraduate business class was very daunting. I was a guy in the back of accounting class asking very silly questions, but I learned a lot in that MBA, and I learned a lot quickly. And I think it really helped me with a focus on treating our roles as if we're running businesses, and learning as much as I could. That 1 year plus MBA, I would argue it might even be as valuable or more valuable as the 4 years I spent in undergrad. So I thought it really complemented that well. Two completely different experiences. And after that, unlike Dr. Campos, I was unwilling to go do more school and excited to get in the workforce. So that's maxed out for me.
Life, Brian. You entered the school of life.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Colors are black and blue. I love that I love both your answers, and I do hope that somebody who's a younger leader that's maybe in a full-time role even would listen and go, hey, I don't know that I'll ever regret it. I don't know that I'll ever regret the investment I make in education. Lisa, I can hear your dad in the background cheering us on in this conversation for sure. Hey, so it was a great opportunity for me because I didn't know a ton about UTSA. I didn't know a ton about FAU. But I wanted to ask this question because the first thing that came to my mind when I heard about both of you is I thought Dusty May taking FAU to the Final Four, Brian, a couple of years ago, and then Lisa, Coach Traylor. Were the Roadrunners ranked at one point in football?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And so both of you have experienced, that's a pretty unique moment for your school to have a huge first. I want to talk about how did you manage that situation? What do you look back on and feel really grateful for? Do you have any things you wish you did differently? Both when it comes to managing a coach that's a hot, successful name that everybody kind of knows, oh, this is front of the newspaper kind of name. Tell us about that experience. What was it like, and what did you learn from it?
I would say I look back very fondly on the experience of the postseason runs we had, and the success we had under Coach Dusty May. I don't know, everyone in the time, I remember as we were making the run, everyone said, just enjoy the moment. Don't, you're always going to remember this, enjoy the moment. And I was stressed out of my mind the whole time. You know what I mean? And I don't know if that's just human nature, but the whole time I'm thinking about, okay, how do we leverage this for next year? How do we, it's always what's next. And very hard to truly enjoy the moment, like maybe like I know our fans did. So it was a heck of an experience. I don't think I'd change much, and it was a very cool, just from the beginning of it, with building the program. And there was a lot that went into, everyone remembers the Final Four run and then the NCAA tournament the following year, but people probably don't remember the first 3 to 4 years, which were a grind and a build, and seeing somebody build something that, for us, it was really from the ground up, and working with them to create something special is something I'll always look back fondly on.
Yeah, and same, everyone always says enjoy the journey, but it's been a lot of work, right? And then enjoying the fruits of those labors. And I'll tell you that, for Coach Traylor, people have heard this, that, we hired him in 2019, 2020 hits, and it's COVID, and he's trying to put a team together. We don't even know if we're playing. But he immediately had success in 2020, 2021. We're starting to win back-to-back conference championships. We're in the top 25. And throughout that, in retrospect, it was such an opportunity for us to build our relationship. And, at some point we should write a story about all the things that we went through and how again, when you're building a program and having that success and maybe not having all the infrastructure in place for that success when it came, I always knew that Coach Traylor was going to be a winner. I didn't anticipate that happening in year 2, right? And so what we went through behind the scenes, the hard work that people didn't see, or the things that we struggled through, all of that just brought us together, and it's just been a really fun journey. And to Brian's point, like, just celebrating it, like, it was so fast and furious, and we got it and we won, and then we just turned the page. And so taking a moment to really celebrate that for our staff, our coaches, that's gonna, always be in my mind, that we need to always pause, not go to the next thing, but pause and celebrate these big accomplishments. Our baseball team, for the first time ever, we won in regionals. We beat Texas twice. We beat Kansas State. We got into the super regionals for the first time ever. And so that experience with Jeff helped me in this experience. Like, okay, we're, as a staff, we're going to pause. We're going to celebrate. We're going to look to next year, but we are going to take an opportunity, because this has been something really, really special.
Well, that's tremendous advice. And Brian, when you were first talking about it, I thought, yeah, I wonder, is it even possible to stop while you're in it and to enjoy it? Because what makes you two phenomenal leaders is that even in the middle of the success, you're already thinking. You're thinking about the future. I mean, that's part of your job. That's what the job requires, but it's also what makes you great. But Lisa, I love that it is really, you just gave a great example with baseball. It is possible to stop and go, hey, we're going to think about the future. We're going to think about what do we need to do, but we're also going to stop and we're going to celebrate. I think there's something to be learned there for all of us. We got just a few minutes left. I want to ask you one question that in some ways is the most obvious question in college athletics right now, which is, everything's just the same. It's just like it always has been. Nothing's changing. No, obviously, so much change. I don't know how you even keep up with it, but my question is for both of you. What are you learning as a leader right now on how to stay optimistic? How do you stay forward thinking while things are constantly in flux and constantly changing? How do you not let it discourage you? How do you not let it affect the way you see your day-to-day activities?
Yeah, for me, I think I always can go back to my student affairs roots, right? Like, whenever I'm discouraged, I go down to the weight room, I go to a practice, and I just go interact with our student athletes. That this is, it sounds cliche, but this is really what it's still about. And the things that we're talking about, it's affecting the 1%, right? There are still 99% of these student athletes who aren't getting those big NIL deals. They are loving the experience they're having it as a student and as a student athlete here at UTSA. And so just a constant reminder, that's my North Star, is having an impact on these student athletes, helping them grow in the next couple of years, get their degree, go be productive UTSA alum. And so I just go get grounded back to that. But it is, there's challenges and this changing landscape. You have to evolve. And when we talk about the hiring of new staff and coaches, again, I'm very transparent about what we're looking for in those staff and those coaches. And we have honest conversations. Like, this is really hard for a lot of folks who have been in intercollegiate athletics for a long time. it's hard for them to evolve. And we have those real transparent, honest conversations that if this is not what you signed up for, let's help you transition to something else, because you're going to be miserable if you don't evolve with what's happening. That, and I'm sure my staff is tired of hearing about evolution and about, things are changing. We're not going to stop that. How do we leverage all of these changes to help our student athletes, to support our coaches, to help this institution, and to, again, position ourselves, for what athletics can and should be. And so those are tough conversations, but you got to have those with staff, that if they aren't enjoying what they're doing anymore, if they're not passionate about it, we got to rethink what does that look like. And then for those who love change, who love building, that's who you're surrounding yourself, right? And they're so energized, and they see just how we can do things differently, and it's an opportunity. And again, maybe for Brian and I, being at young institutions, at young athletic programs, we're not steep in tradition, and so we've always been evolving, and we've always been looking at ways to do things differently. So for me, it's really exciting, and we just try to really surround ourselves with staff and students, or staff and coaches who have that mentality as well.
It's great. Brian, what about you?
Lisa said it perfectly. I think the value of going to practices and being around student athletes and all the good things about college athletics, they're still there. And I think that's one piece of it. And that's one reminder that all the reasons we love our jobs are still there. That being said, the massive change is also there. And I do think it would be really, really hard to be in these roles. Lisa said it really well, if you didn't love change. And right now, I think it's really hard to be in these roles if you're not an eternal optimist. Like, it's one day at a time, and you have to be an irrationally optimistic person in order to do these jobs right now. You just do. And your staff needs to have the same mindset. And I also think at places like UTSA and FAU, you need to be constantly thinking about, we don't have the advantage of having been around 100 years and the history and the traditions, et cetera, which I'm sure we wish we had. But what we do have is a unique upside opportunity, and we do have a ceiling that nobody knows where it is. And I think that we're both at institutions that have incredible potential. And so a change in a new world shouldn't be intimidating to us. We got to figure out, how do we use every single thing we can, all of our resources, to make as much of this change a competitive advantage for us, and to be really optimistic about how are we going to come out on the other side and win at a really high level. So I think it's both. It's remembering that all the stuff we love about college sports is there, but in the future world, if we weren't at places like UTSA and FAU, we'd have to figure out the optimistic mindset on why that place why it's a good thing for that place. But if you're not trying to figure out how change is good for you and how you can evolve and adapt, then I don't think you can survive in this world.
Well, Brian, when you get ready to write your doctoral dissertation like Dr. Campos has done, I think a title could be Irrational Optimism. I think you got something there. That's a great title. That's a good phrase. Hey, thank you both thanks for this conversation. I also just want to thank you on behalf of every student that benefits from those athletic moments, whether it's student athlete or just students that are there for the education or there for the good time, for every parent, for every employee that you have. Thank you for how hard you're working, and thank you for how you are adapting to change, because we need it. Our world needs college athletics in a deep way. So thanks for this conversation. Thanks for being a part of the CALS Leadership Playbook podcast. And I look forward to talking to you both soon.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for the time, Clay. Appreciate you.
Thanks for tuning in to episode 11 of the CALS Report. Big thanks to Grant McCasland for his authenticity and wisdom, and to Lisa Campos and Brian White for sharing what steady, forward-focused leadership looks like in today's ever-changing landscape. We're grateful to have you as a part of the CALS community. Subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, and follow us at the CALS Report on Instagram and LinkedIn, and at AD Symposium on Twitter. To learn more or get involved, visit us at adsymposium.us. Until next time, stay connected, stay inspired, and keep leading the way in college athletics.